So Bob Iger gets a fatal reality check as Disney scrambles to recover from years of declining interest in both Star Wars and Marvel. So decided to make this into a series of this because for years we've all been talking about this with the fact that this how Disney became woke and how the property IPs like Star Wars and Marvel has as well. And Bob Iger is facing pressure as Disney struggles to recover from years of missteps with Marvel and Star Wars. Now, under Bob Iger's leadership, well, Disney relied heavily on Kevin Feige to manage Marvel and Kathleen Kennedy to also guide Star Wars, but both strategies have backfired. You see, Disney is now seeing declining interest from audiences who once supported these franchises. Now, honestly put, Bob Iger knows that Disney needs to rebuild trust, but Kevin Feige's on Marvel projects and Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars direction hasn't really delivered the particular results that the company expected. Now, Disney's handling of these brands have created long-term challenges that can't be ignored any longer. So this fatal reality check for Bob Iger signals a critical moment for Disney, Marvel, and Star Wars as the audiences simply continue to abandon the brands they once loved. Now, Bob Iger built Disney's strategy on buying established brands like Marvel and Star Wars, but simply instead of just honoring those properties and the fans, well, the studio tried to repackage them. You see, Kevin Feige shifted Marvel into a DEI first agenda, first focusing on checking boxes instead of telling great stories. Kathleen Kennedy simply turned Star Wars into something unrecognizable to longtime fans. Now, Disney actually thought they could force feed their audiences this new direction and actually assumed people would show up still. But that particular arrogance has cost Disney billions, and Bob Iger knows it. Now, Kevin Feige's Marvel once dominated the box office, but the cracks began forming after Phase 3 ended. You see, the Avengers hype carried Marvel out by Phase 4. Audiences were leaving. Projects like She-Hulk and the Marvels simply proved that Disney lost the pulse of what fans actually wanted, okay? So all of this came from this article right here from Variety talking about how Disney's Boy Trouble Studios seeks original IP and stuff so they can go ahead and get back the male Gen Zers and stuff. And also with Kathleen Kennedy, she made the same mistake that, with Star Wars, simply just forcing divisive narratives into the sequels and alienating the core fandom. Now, Bob Iger's leadership, on the other hand, failed to recognize the warning signs, and now both Marvel and Star Wars are simply just struggling to stay relevant. Now, Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars decisions actually gutted the franchise's generational handoff. For decades, Star Wars survived by passing from one generation to the next, but the Disney era severed that link. You see, the young audiences aren't really connecting with these particular stories anymore, and older fans actually feel abandoned. Now, Bob Iger is now scrambling for new ways to bring Gen Z men back into Disney's ecosystem because, simply put, Marvel and Star Wars are not doing the job. You see, Kevin Feige's changes actually failed, Kathleen Kennedy's vision failed, and Disney's box office numbers actually show it. Now, simply put, Disney now wants new IPs to replace the audience they lost. According to reports, Bob Iger is actively pressuring executives to find franchises aimed at young men, and Marvel was supposed to fill that role. Star Wars, on the other hand, was supposed to fill that role as well, and Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy were simply given massive budgets to go ahead and grow these brands, and instead, they've actually stripped away their cultural value. Now, Disney simply put paid the price, and the company's credibility with longtime fans is gone. Now, the irony here is that Disney bought Marvel and Star Wars to actually strengthen its grip on male driven franchises, and then immediately worked to change what made them successful. Now, Kevin Feige promised that Marvel would cater to a broader audience, but it actually alienated both core fans and the visual casual viewers. Kathleen Kennedy pushed Star Wars into territory where even dedicated supporters actually lost interest. And Bob Iger's plan backfired spectacularly, and now Disney is rebuilding from the ground up while actually bleeding market share. Okay. So Star Wars used to dominate every generation, but Kathleen Kennedy went on ahead and just simply failed to secure that future. Projects like The Last Jedi divided the fan base. The Rise of Skywalker left audiences frustrated and disconnected. You see, the excitement that used to surround Star Wars premieres is simply gone. Heck, even Kevin Feige's Marvel isn't faring much better as audiences have grown tired of the endless, uninspired projects. Now, Disney underestimated how quickly loyalty can actually evaporate when fans feel betrayed. Bob Iger's reactive leadership isn't really fixing the core problem. People don't trust Disney anymore. And Kevin Feige's decision to push Marvel into constant experimentation actually left the MCU with an identity crisis. The shift from grounded stories like Iron Man and Captain America to messy, agenda-driven projects have actually eroded Marvel's foundation. Kathleen Kennedy did the same thing with Star Wars, prioritizing short-term media praise over long-term audience connection. And Bob Iger's strategy failed because, simply put, Disney stopped respecting the fandoms that actually kept these properties alive. And now, Disney is begging the very audience it dismissed to come back. Now, Disney wants to create new franchises aimed at young men, but rebuilding trust isn't that simple. You see, Gen Z has grown up in media landscape where Marvel and Star Wars should have been central. But you see, Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy turned them into symbols of just woke corporate mismanagement. Now, Bob Iger is trying to chase trends while ignoring the root issue. The creative vision under Disney doesn't align with fan expectations. Now, until that changes, Marvel and Star Wars will not recover. You see, Kathleen Kennedy's handling of Star Wars has become one of the most expensive blunders in entertainment history. No surprise there. Now, Disney spent billions acquiring Lucasfilm only to just mess up the franchise so severely that its cultural impact actually collapsed. Now, Kevin Feige followed a similar path with Marvel, where poorly planned phases, sloppy storytelling, and lack of scripts killed long-term interest. Bob Iger's Disney thought that these brands were invincible. They're not. And the company is now fighting uphill to stay relevant in a changing entertainment landscape. Now, Marvel fatigue, according to people, is real, and Disney underestimated how quickly audiences would burn without strong writing. You see, Kevin Feige's overproduction diluted the MCU's value, and instead of just learning from that, Kathleen Kennedy just simply repeated the same mistakes with Star Wars. Now, Disney simply tried to cover the losses with nonstop content, but it only accelerated the decline. Bob Iger can see the financial fallout in Disney's stock performance alone, not alone, but also the underwhelming box office results from Marvel and Star Wars projects alike. Now, Disney's problems run deeper than a few flops, and you know what? This is about trust. Fans don't believe Marvel or Star Wars will deliver the stories they loved anymore. Now, Kevin Feige's choices at Marvel actually combined with Kathleen Kennedy's stubborn direction for Star Wars itself actually alienated the very audiences these brands were built for. Now, Bob Iger's decision to chase new IPs proves that Disney no longer has no faith in fixing the damage, which signals weaknesses to investors and fans alike. You see, Star Wars used to be generational and Marvel used to dominate the global box office itself. And now both are fading under Disney's ownership. Kevin Feige's Marvel can't recapture its peak, and Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars hasn't even produced a universally celebrated hit in years. And Bob Iger simply keeps looking for ways to draw young men back, but the strategy actually ignores the obvious solution. Stop destroying the properties you already own. Disney's refusal to admit this, as you all know, admit its mistakes, keeping the decline in motion. Bob Iger's desperation is clear in Disney's approach, and reports are actually showing how executives are actively seeking treasure hunt style adventure movies and other genres meant to attract the young male audiences. But the irony is that Marvel and Star Wars already offered everything Disney wants in new IPs before Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy dismantled their identities. Okay. Now, the studio ignored fans, doubled down on divisive creative decisions, and now they're paying for it. You see, the future of Disney actually hinges on whether Bob Iger can repair the damage done to Marvel and Star Wars. But rebuilding these brands actually requires something that Disney hasn't shown in years: respect for the audiences. Now, Kevin Feige needs to restore Marvel's focus on simply compelling characters as well as the grounded storytelling everyone loves. And Kathleen Kennedy's Star Wars must realign with what made the franchise timeless in the first place. Now, without those changes, Disney will simply keep chasing trends instead of just leading them, and Bob Iger's legacy will actually be tied to the very collapse of the very brands he paid billions to control. Now, right now, Disney's struggles are actually self-inflicted. As I've said before, Marvel is stagnant, Star Wars is fractured, Kevin Feige and Kathleen Kennedy pushed these franchises off course, and Bob Iger is simply scrambling for solutions without addressing the core problem. Now, fans have already moved on, and winning them back will actually take more than just a few flashy announcements. And until Disney earns back trust, well, these brands will remain shadows of what they used to be, and the audiences, in this case the male audience that made them iconic, will keep walking away. So let me know your thoughts about this in the comments below. Be sure to smash the like button, share the video far and wide across social media, subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell for future uploads notifications, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, peace.